We welcome all people to our land, Australia, and in doing so, we bring to your attention our first inhabitants who have been custodians for many centuries. It is our privilege to give respect to all our past people, current descendants and future generations who occupy this country, to not only inhabit this land, to preserve and to nurture it. This land is a once only gift, and if we abuse it, we will lose it. We therefore want to impress on all people who seek to harvest from this land that we, the first inhabitants, have been trusted by God to preserve all nature when He has blessed us with an abundance of gifts, in this case for the renewable energy of wind and sun and seawater. We have been fortunate to have partners on our country who have acknowledged the Mirning people's land and customs and are enduring to work and respect all our traditions, and to give Mirning people the most respect for the future generations.
Hi, great to be here in Perth on Noongar country, and we always love celebrating the fact of that deep connection we have with country. To Andrew Dickson, the chair of the Australian Committee of the Ammonia Energy Association, to Trevor Naley, the chairman of the Mirning Traditional Lands Corporation, and I understand Trevor will give a welcome to country, which is fantastic. Look, I really appreciate the opportunity to come here today to address the Ammonia Energy Association's annual conference. I've been to plenty of hydrogen conferences, but this is the first that is focused entirely on ammonia. And of course, it's a great opportunity for us to showcase WA's renewable hydrogen and clean ammonia projects, and for us also to keep abreast of the innovation that is going on in all across the ammonia value chain, ammonia, clean ammonia certification, and the developments in bunker fuel. So, of course, ammonia has had a very profound global impact since its discovery, the discovery of its synthesis from hydrogen and nitrogen by Haber-Bosch early in the 20th century. And today, it is the second most widely produced commodity chemical globally, with a production annually of over 180 million tonnes in 2019. And of course, the vast bulk of that is utilised as an agricultural fertiliser. But it's also used in food processing, industrial materials, refrigerants and additives, and particularly importantly here in WA, it is used for explosives in the mining sector, where we currently use 1.2 million tonnes per annum for this purpose. So as the vast percentage of the world's ammonia is produced from fossil fuels, the industry really needs radical transformation to meet our climate change needs. We know that ammonia can be produced renewably, and it is really just a matter of time before this product will be cost competitive with the traditional production methods. So both the direct and indirect pricing of carbon pollution, plus the scale and technology of developments that we are seeing, will see major change be well in place by 2030. And of course, this move to production of from renewable sources opens up an entirely new front for ammonia, and that is ammonia as a relatively low-cost means of transporting renewable hydrogen. So in addition to decarbonising ammonia and its traditional uses, the production of green ammonia from green hydrogen offers real opportunities to globally reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So if we look at the range of things that we're seeing, that energy from ammonia can be used directly as a fuel or converted back to hydrogen in a range of ways. And we see ammonia is easily stored at large quantities as a liquid at modest pressure. And it has its energy density is around 40% of that of petroleum. We also see it being used as a hydrogen carrier, and with its volumetric density, about 150% of that of liquid hydrogen, its high auto-ignition temperature, its low condensation pressure, and its lower density, it is really a very safe, effective, and lower cost option for moving hydrogen across the globe. We know ammonia itself can be used in stationary power, either through gas turbines or through fuel cells. It can be used as an automotive power source. It can be used through vehicles that are powered by fuel cells, or even in the internal combustion engine. And we see that the maritime industry is really likely to be an early adopter of ammonia as a fuel. And we understand that there are predictions that by 2050, we actually think that's probably not ambitious enough. It could make up 25% of maritime fuel. And as ships are globally contributing nearly 3% to annual carbon dioxide emissions, this is clearly a key target area. The option, but of course there is a key challenge with the direct combustion of ammonia, and of course that is the production of nitrogen dioxide, or NOx, and of course we can ultimately eliminate that through the use of fuel cells, but at this point in time we don't have the adequate power capability in those fuel cells to deliver that for ships or big, very big heavy haulage. So probably at this initial phase, quite clearly, it is going to be the combustion. It will be a vast improvement on bunker fuel. And we see that the CSIRO, with the support of Fortescue Future Industries, has commenced a pilot-scale ammonia cracking reactor that will integrate vanadium-based membranes to produce high purity hydrogen directly from ammonia. Now that is really going to be a great breakthrough technology, enabling us to transport our hydrogen, renewably produced hydrogen, in a stable form into our overseas markets, and then be fracked back into hydrogen for consumption. And of course, Western Australia is ideally placed, and we look here at the Geosciences Australia atlases, whether it's solar, wind, wave, or tidal. We see that Western Australia has just got those world-class resources. We have, of course, got an existing ammonia industry that has grown up alongside our agriculture and mining industries, companies like Yarra Pilbara Fertilisers and CSBP. We have, of course, a massive, vast area of land, 2.5 million square kilometres. So we're basically as big as Western Europe, with a population of just 2.6 million people. So there's plenty of land out there for these to exploit our solar, wind, tidal, and wave resources. And of course, we've been in the game of oil and gas projects for the last 40 years. So we really have the people and the project experience to drive this forward. Now, at the moment, we have around 30 renewable hydrogen projects right across the supply chain, including quite a number that are focused on the production and export of ammonia. Now, it's very hard in such a rapidly changing environment to make predictions, but when we look at the projects that are just current and planned, we don't think it's at all fanciful that Western Australia could be producing up to 100 gigawatts per annum of renewable energy for hydrogen by the end of the decade, and that could increase even to 200 gigawatts by 2040. To give you a comparison, the entire stationary energy market in Australia at the moment is 70 gigawatts. And now we know that if we're going to capitalise on those competitive advantages that we have, it really does. We need to work to understand and make the strategic interventions that we need to see the industry thrive in WA. And of course, we've been working on this for the last 5 years, but it's great to see, our commitment is clearly articulated by, after the last election a few months ago, the creation of a dedicated hydrogen industry portfolio. To date, we've allocated around $35.5 million to support the renewable hydrogen industry in Australia. And as we roll out this term's agenda, expect to see more support. So we've got a range of, we've done a range of feasibility projects and 5 projects that are capital investments across the chain. And for the ammonia people here, of course, one is Yarra Pilbara Angie's Uri Green Ammonia project. So we invested $2 million of that in the state, and that successfully helped unlock the $42 million through the federal ARENA project. So that will see a 10 megawatt electrolyzer being completed in the facility on the Burrup Peninsula, and hopefully that project will be completed by the end of 2022. So we've Oakajee is a 5,000 hectare site that we have in the midwest of the state. We've identified that as an area which could become a centre of hydrogen production and related industries. We went out for expressions of interest, and we've had over 65 submissions from across the globe, including many senior international consortia, and we're now working to turn that into a reality. We have got a road project that is underway, and hopefully that will also be completed next year, and we're working on the activation plan as we speak. We've been partnering with the National Energy Resources Australia to work on the hydrogen hub funding proposals that are available from the federal government, making sure that WA has every opportunity of participating. So we then go to, there's a number of hydrogen and ammonia projects that we are working on, projects like the Murchison Renewable Hydrogen Project, with 5 to 8 gigawatt project, Fortescue Industries, their mining, starting off with their mining decarbonisation ambitions, which we're helping fund at the very early stages. the Asian Energy Renewable Hub, a massive project by Intercontinental north of Port Hedland. And of course, the Intercontinental's also their Western Green Energy Hub on the eastern edge, southeastern edge of the state, which would be a massive 15,000 square kilometre project delivering up to 3.5 million tonnes of renewable hydrogen or green ammonia, or 20 million tonnes of green ammonia into the future. And I just want to acknowledge Trevor there and the involvement of the Mirning Green Energy Limited as with an equity stake there. And it's one of the great exciting things that we see about this industry, the potential for it to be coming after the formation of, or the granting of, native title creates some real opportunities. And as well as the greenfield sites, we're also seeing an increasing number of companies looking at soaking up the duck curve from the southwest interconnected grid as the cost of electrolyzers coming down, being able to access even for a 6-hour period this cheap, even free renewable energy really is showing new potential. We're working on how we deal with land tenure, particularly for these greenfields, massive greenfields projects. Some of the proponents are already using the existing Land Act provisions that enable an early entry onto site with an exclusive lease. We're also looking at what alternative tenures might be and whether or not some of those could be non-exclusive use, perhaps reflecting mining tenements, but we want to hear from industry what their needs might be. But of course, all of these will always constitute a future act under our native title legislation. So we're very keen to be involved, have the traditional owners involved right from the get-go. And industry is telling us that in order to kick off a commercial scale hydrogen production in WA, we really need a good foundation of domestic offtake, and we need to stimulate this. So we've started already with a project that we're funded with ATCO that will see us injecting hydrogen into parts of Perth's gas network. So that's important. And we're working towards a project for the hydrogen or ammonia fueling of trucks and buses to drive the early aggregation of that demand. And we should have more to say about that by the end of within a month's time. So that would look, we understand that will require some capital support from government. And of course, we're working on regulatory reform and certification, progressing with the National Gas Law amendments as a joint federal state project. We're also in there with the Smart Energy Council Zero Carbon Certification Scheme as a founding partner, because we do understand how important certification is, and we're doing a whole heap of other regulatory reform that we see is necessary. So we also are very keen to see that we don't want just the equivalent of a dig and ship operation here. We see real opportunity for West Australia moving both up and down the processing chain. So we want to, with the big demand that's coming and the driving down of energy costs that will come from the renewable hydrogen or ammonia, we see opportunities to be involved in the manufacture of components such as the membranes, the electrolyzers, the wind turbines. And we have an additional commitment at the moment of $10 million towards wind turbine manufacturing. And we're also continuing to support research into the options of green steel and also green aluminium. So we have some research going on in that regard. We will need to make sure that we manage the demand as some of our biggest partners might be changing their investment profiles going forward. So that's a lot, but it's been fantastic to have this opportunity to talk to you all today, and hopefully giving you a little bit of an insight as to where we see WA fitting into this great new industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your keynote speech, Minister. It's your first with us here at the Ammonia Energy Association, but hopefully not your last, given how quickly this industry is developing both locally and overseas. I'd like to dig into a couple of points that you've made, just to tease out more of your perspective. You mentioned the Mirning people and the Western Green Energy Hub project. What benefits do you see for traditional owners in WA from these sorts of projects? And how would this be different from existing industries and projects in WA? So in short, how can these projects sort of more tightly weave Indigenous communities into the economic fabric of the state?
Look, I think, Andrew, that's really important. So I guess this is an industry that is emerging after native title has been determined across most of the state. So as we've seen with intercontinental and engagement with the Mirning people, that the Mirning have had their determination. They have been looking for an economic use for their land, and because the land component is so big and such an important part, that we see this as giving them a real solid negotiating power. And what we see emerging from the Western Energy Hub, where we have an equity offering being made, we think that's very important. We think that it's not just about getting a royalty or getting some jobs, but actually to be there, being able to be full equity participants in a project, we think offers a different future for Aboriginal communities.
Yeah, thank you. Now, given that these projects, and you mentioned about 30 projects in WA currently, certainly the green ammonia projects are essentially mega-scale renewable energy projects. What potential do you see for these projects to be transformational locally, as well as creating new export revenue?
Well, one of the interesting things is that we see this production can take place right across the state. If we go to Eucla with the massive wind and solar project, we go over to Albany with wave power. We've got right up through the Midwest and the Pilbara massive projects, and in the Kimberley we're looking at the possibility of tidal power as well as hydropower. So it's an industry that really everyone right across the state, really, or many areas across the state, have an opportunity to take part in. And it is this opportunity to decarbonise, because we are, I think, the world's second largest exporter of gas, and we're all aware of what that around the world everyone is making commitments to decarbonise our economy. And so what this gives us is an opportunity to have an industry that is in place, that is actually potentially spread right from south to north, from east to west across our state, and allowing us to decarbonise. So I think it's really, and the ability of that to generate cheap energy, which in turn can allow us to engage in manufacturing. There's always been the great dream of downstream processing in Western Australia of some of our mineral resources. The price of energy has been probably the most significant counterfactual in that, and this gives us also the potential to resolve that.
Yeah, fully agree. I mean, from my perspective, obviously seeing decarbonising, mining activities, haul trucks, trains, dry bulk shipping, reducing diesel imports, increasing fuel security, local value adding with green steel, and etc. So, from my perspective, I see this as an enormous opportunity for the state and for the nation to have multiple benefits, export and locally as well.
That's right. And I think one of the things, if you think what happens here in WA with the diesel that we rely on right across the state in many areas for the remote power, remote stationary power, as well as for all of our trucks and shipping. So we bring the diesel in from overseas. We put the diesel on other diesel-powered trucks and cart it thousands of kilometres around the state. I mean, and to think that we could replace that exercise with a fuel that was generated locally is pretty exciting.
Indeed. Well, thank you again, Minister. Thanks very much for your time. I think the future is looking very bright in Western Australia, and we look forward to you speaking with us again at a future AEA conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and good luck with all your endeavours.
Thank you.